Hello and welcome to Look Down There. I'm your host, Michelle Lamore. And today, my very first guest is a woman that I have known for quite some time. She came to me through my burlesque school in Chicago and has been singing and dancing and producing beautiful events throughout the Chicagoland area. But she also day works as an esthetician, and she has been waxing and vulvascaping for many years. And I thought, who better to talk to first than the lovely Miss Brooklyn Bridges.
Hi
Welcome,
there.
Brooklyn.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, thank you for being here. So I will tell you, and people might find this surprising, as I am a burlesque performer who wears very tiny little G-strings and pusties, as I like to call them. I've never been waxed. I I have always just shaved, and I've never had the time to grow my hair out in order to get waxed, and but also the courage. There was one time where I got up enough courage because I thought, okay, it's long enough. Let me go try it. So I get in there, I put on the little paper undies, and she comes in and she's like, no. She's like, it's not long enough. And I was like, well, that's the end of that. That's never happening again. And ironically, during this pandemic, I've had so much time to grow my hair out. I have a full-on pandemic bush, which I am really enjoying. But tell me more about like what happens in a waxing for those of us that haven't waxed before.
Okay, so let me preface this by saying what I do kind of goes beyond just waxing. I do different kinds of hair removal. I do sugaring and I do waxing, which are just
Wait, what was the other one?
sugaring.
Sugaring. Okay.
Probably one of the oldest forms of hair removal, where you actually use sugar to remove the hair. It's like a sugar pasty kind of thing. But so yes, it doesn't surprise me that what happened to you because it has happened to me over the years plenty of times when people say, oh my gosh, it's ready. I need to come in. I need to get waxed. And they come in and there's absolutely nothing that I can do because there's no hair for me to grab onto. Generally, I tell people when you're going to get waxed, if you've been shaving, give yourself a solid 2 weeks of hair growth. Now, despite what most people think 2 weeks looks like, I know what 2 weeks looks like. And if you come in after a week, I'm going to know that you haven't waited 2 weeks. 2 weeks is about, I'd say about a 1/4 inch of hair growth, which is what I say the length of about a grain of rice. When you come in, if you're going to get a bikini done, generally I'll give you the paper underwear, like you said. If you're going to do a Brazilian, I just have you undress from the waist down. I lay people on a kind of a massage table that's covered in paper, just like you would be at a doctor's office. I give you a towel to cover up with just for modesty reasons when I open up the door if somebody happens to be out there. And then through the process of it, it's, if I'm doing waxing, it's one way. If I'm doing sugaring, it's another way. And I just determine that based on the type of skin you have, the type of hair you have, what experiences you've had in the past, so on and so forth.
So I imagine you get very intimate with people pretty
Oh, yeah.
quickly.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. At this point in my career, I don't recognize it. I think it's probably the equivalent of a doctor coming in and, analyzing something that you think is weird, but of course the doctor is like, this is kind of every day for me. If you've seen one, you've seen them all. So yeah, I get pretty personal with my clients, which is probably why I've had why some of my clients are my best friends. why I've lived with one of my clients who is now a best friend of mine. And I have long-standing relationships with them. I've gone to people's houses when they've been on bed rest for pregnancy. I've done their waxing on their own bed. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Full
Because
service.
yeah, you build a relationship with somebody who's looking at your lady bits or male bits or whatever bits
Yeah.
on a pretty regular basis. So.
Yeah. And how, like, what's the dynamic there? Do you feel that people feel pretty self-conscious? Do you kind of have to ease their concerns about being seen?
Um, yeah, it really is dependent on the person. I think the first time that I see them, there's always some sort of nervousness that happens. Either they're overly confident and they're just ready to take their pants off as soon as they walk in the room, or they're super nervous and they need me to walk through every little detail of what's going to be happening. And it's fine either way because I understand. I've been getting waxed for 15 years now, 15, 20 years now. And I mean, sometimes that nervousness doesn't go away. I mean, it's
I
a
mean, it's an intense physical experience, I would.
physical experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it hurts any less, right? I don't know. Do you build up calluses or something?
No, I don't think that you don't build up calluses, but there are things that you can do to actually reduce that amount of pain. I will say the people that I see on a regular basis, and by regular basis I mean every 4 weeks. So a little background with your hair grows on 4-week cycles. So let's say during the pandemic, you haven't waxed, you haven't shaved, you haven't done anything, and you've got this full bush, right? When I wax you, I'm going to take the hair out by the root. When it comes back out, it's going to feel a lot less abundant than it did when you came in. So in the next 4 weeks, you're only going to get one hair growth cycle that comes through. So it's going to feel lighter, it's going to feel softer, and it's going to feel less dense. The next time you come in that 4 weeks afterward, it's going to feel less painful because I'm not going to have to pull out as much hair each time.
Yeah. So, what are some of the reasons that people come in to get waxed? Do you find that they're usually doing this for someone else, or that they truly feel more comfortable being waxed?
Um, it's kind of a trick question. I think that a lot of my clients come in for themselves. That being said, I think that if our society were a little more accepting of more abundant hair, the women that I see, and I'm going to speak right now to just the women that I see, but the women that I see would probably feel less like they need to come in as often if it were less of a societal norm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting what we decide, like what hair is appropriate where.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Upper lips, armpits, bush, legs. It's like the only hair that we really want to have is hair on our head,
Right.
and like the perfectly shaped brow,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And long lashes that
Mm-hmm.
cause
Yes,
title.
those are the acceptable hairs.
Right, right.
And who made those rules?
Yeah, it's interesting. I could honestly talk about this topic all day. It's really fascinating to me. The reasons why people choose to come in. I it I can speak to my own personal experience. When I started getting hair removal done, getting waxing, I was just doing the bikini. And I went to a guy that was in town that was kind of the Brazilian king. And I went to him and I wanted just a regular bikini. And he was like, no, you're getting a Brazilian today. I was like, okay. He's like, let's just try it out, see how you like it. The difference for me as far as comfort was it just was nice. It felt really smooth. It felt really clean. Um, so I kept it up. Definitely, I've gone through periods where I'll wax more than others, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Everybody has their own reason.
Hmm. Um, so how, like, what is the youngest person that you've waxed before?
I'd say the youngest person that I've waxed is probably um, maybe 13, 14.
Oh my goodness, that's so young. Oh
Mm-hmm.
my goodness. Okay. So
Yeah.
there's really not like an age limit or age requirement.
No, there's not an age requirement. As far as seeing a client that is that young, I do require a parent to either be present or to give consent for that to happen,
Hmm.
um, for so many different reasons. This young woman she was a swimmer, and she found that shaving was too rough on her skin. So waxing was an option for us to try.
Yes. Yeah, I do understand the ingrown hair situation can be very intense.
Hmm.
For me, I've had like some really bad bad instances where I've had to call off shows. I've had to not perform because I couldn't even walk. It
Oh,
was so, I mean, I'd be walking around the house like a cowboy, you know, because it was so bad. So do you have any tips on how to prevent those ingrown hairs or what to do when they pop up?
absolutely. So, as far as prevention goes, I recommend for anybody who is shaving or waxing that they exfoliate in between whatever they're doing. And you can do exfoliating mitts, you can do an exfoliating um, kind of cream or gel, body wash, something like that. But just as long as you're exfoliating on a regular basis. What happens when you get an ingrown hair generally is that if you think of this as the surface of your skin and this is the hair, right? Like, so normally it would just kind of come through the skin, right? Um, when you're waxing, you wax the hair at the follicle, you take it out at the follicle. When it comes back out, it's a baby fine hair. If you have a lot of dead, dry skin cells that are laying on the surface, it's
Hmm.
hard for that baby fine hair to come through. So sometimes what happens is it just starts to curl underneath. And then your body starts to try to fight that and to fix the problem. So it sends a bunch of white blood cells there to fix it. And then that's what forms those lumps. If you have one, my biggest recommendation is to leave it alone. Try to let it come to the surface on its own. Otherwise, you're going to exacerbate the problem. You can rupture it underneath, and it can actually spread bacteria underneath, causing way more problems. You can also spread bacteria on the surface, causing more to form as well. So, as as much as you can leave it alone, leave it alone.
Yeah. Yeah. I just took to using hot compresses because it was just, I don't, there was nothing to do. It was so bad.
Yeah.
But been pretty good here during the pandemic.
Yeah,
Um,
and hot compresses, that's exactly what I would
yeah.
tell somebody. If they have something that's really inflamed, that doesn't seem like it's coming to the surface, I would put just a hot compress on that. Keep doing that every day until the swelling goes down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as this show is all about looking down there and about reducing the shame of vulva ownership,
Hmm.
I have two questions for you. One, how often, or can you remember the first time that you looked at yourself? And two, do your clients look at themselves, or do you encourage them to, look at themselves before they leave? And how is that reaction?
Um, I do remember looking at myself, but I think that I did it so often I can't tell you the specific time or when, but I was always very curious about what was going on down here. And I mean, I remember sitting on the floor and looking in a floor mirror and just, wow, what is all of this? What's this for? What does this do? Why do I have this? Why does this look like this? Um, as far as encouraging clients, it depends. When I first started doing bikinis and Brazilians, I it definitely was probably more part of my practice that I would hand them a mirror afterwards and have them look and tell me how everything looked. Um, Kind of as I'm just more seasoned and used to doing it every day and seeing a lot of the same clients over and over, unless they have specific questions, I don't generally give them a mirror. But if I do say something like, do you want me to take all the hair off of your labia? And they say something like, what's my labia? I'm definitely handing them the mirror and I'm going to show them what each part is. I think it's so important. How do we not know these things at this
Wow.
point? You know?
Yeah. Wow, that's so important. So you're giving them basically an anatomy lesson
Oh,
at whatever age. I assume these are grown women at this point who have not seen their labia or know what their labia is.
grown and very educated women that we would be friends with, that you would know and love, and you would think that they would know about their own anatomy. Um, but it's just, we skim past that in school. We don't focus on those things, and I think it has become such a shameful thing to talk about, that they're just like, oh yeah, I'll go in, you do the thing, I don't have to look at it, I don't have to talk about it, and then I'll go home, I'll be clean, I'll be, hair free. And
Yeah. And that makes me think that they're doing this for somebody else and that they're not really invested or care too much about what they look like, what's going on, getting to know themselves in an intimate way, whether it be for pure pleasure, or actually like medical prevention.
yeah.
We're so concerned about looking normal, and are we normal? Have people asked you that before? Do I look normal? Is this normal?
Oh, absolutely. One thing that really shocked me, my mom has, I grew up in the beauty industry. She's, I learned a lot from her growing up. She never made me feel shameful of my body. So at 60 years old, when I gave her a kind of head to toe waxing per her request, I was so shocked at how embarrassed she was for me to see. What she was like, it's so ugly. It really, it broke my heart. I thought, wow. I mean, it's so normal. There's nothing different about you than any other woman that I've ever seen. Any other person that I've seen come in. We're all so different. And I think that we don't know that. We don't hear that enough.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think we're kind of conditioned to compare ourselves to each other all the time. I mean, comparing what we look like, what we're wearing, what our income is, what our house looks like, whatever. The list goes on and on and on. So of course we're going to be comparing what our vulvas look like. And, we were talking earlier that if you're not in a relationship with a woman or a vulva owner, you're not really exposed to vulvas unless you're watching porn. And that's not an accurate representation of what is going on in the world, right? From top to bottom. Porn is not a good representation of our real lives. Yeah.
Well, I will say, I'm not gonna put this out there and say everybody should date women or everybody should date somebody with a vulva. I will say it was the most enlightening thing for me. It really made me so much more comfortable with my body when I started dating women, because I suddenly saw, I was like, oh my gosh, other women look like that. Other women smell like that. Other women feel like that. Or things that I was always so caught up in because I was comparing myself to the only thing that I knew, which was pornography. And there are just so many standards in pornography that they've created that make that so less than reality. I have this kind of joke when people come in and they'll say something about their vulva, and I'll say, like, no, this is neat, this is pristine, this is a porno vagina. I always call mine a party girl, because I always say that she's just like out there, like trying to visit everybody. She's not neat and
you
tight.
Are a party girl. You make friends real easily.
I will say she matches my personality very much. She's not trying to stay in the lines. She's out there having fun.
Oh yeah, I'm bold. I am bold. I'm pretty aggressive.
Yeah, I've seen some vulvas that definitely would be like drinking tea, and they would see my party girl walk by, and they would be just like aghast. But one of my closest friends had said to me, we were talking about a partner that she was with, and she was really worried because she said, she said, I'm so embarrassed about this. I can't believe I'm telling you about this, but one side of my labia hangs down a little lower than the other. And I said, girl, just tell him to get on that side. I was like, that's just the more to suckle on the right than it is on the left. I was like, who cares? Embrace that part. Make that,
Yeah. We're totally disconnecting from a part of our body that's like so magical and amazing. And we're so concerned about our appearances, not so much for the male gaze, but also for each other. We're so judgmental of each other and constantly comparing ourselves to each other, and it doesn't really leave a lot of room for self-love, self-discovery, self-exploration. If there's a part of your body that you've never even seen, how can you love yourself as a whole? It's like that's we have to look directly at it.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a client that I've seen for years, and she came in one day and she told me that she was going to be going in for surgery. And I said, oh, well, what, for what? She told me that she found a lump on her labia. And I asked her, I said, oh, wow, how did you even know that was there? And she said, well, I was masturbating one night, and the fact that she would feel so comfortable to tell me about that, it made me feel like I was doing, it's going to make me emotional, but made me feel like I was doing something right to let my clients know that they were in a safe space, that not only could they tell me anything about what was going on in their lives, but, you know, if they had something that was very personal like that, that they could share that with me. Masturbation isn't something that we, you know, that a lot of us don't even talk to our friends about, let alone someone that we see once a month, you know, for 15 or 20 minutes. So, you know, I feel like letting women know that we're able to talk about that to each other, or letting each other know that we're able to talk about those things, and being okay with that. You know, it's really nice, because how else are you going to find those things? You know?
Brene Brown talks about shame all the time, and she says that speaking shame decreases its power. And I live by that. I think the more that we can talk about these things, the better, and the stronger and more empowered that we'll feel, and the more love that we'll have for ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I so appreciate you being with me here today, Brooklyn. Do you have anything else to add before?
I don't. I mean, I guess I would just say, do look down there. If you have questions, ask. And don't feel ashamed to talk about those things with other people, because it's very likely that we're all going through very similar experiences, and the only way to know that is to share those experiences with each other.
Yes, we are not alone. We're never alone. And thank you for doing the work that you do and being an advocate for women's health and comfort and self-love.
And thank you for bringing all of this to a much more public forum, because I think that this is something that more people need to be talking about on a regular basis.
Agreed. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you can follow at Brooklyn Britches on Instagram and stay tuned for her shows, you know, whenever that starts to happen, or perhaps book an appointment with her in Chicago. You can also follow me at Michelle Amore on Instagram as well for upcoming shows and classes. My next class is Pussy Confidence, beginning on January 9th. If you'd like more information about that, visit michelleamore.com/PC. And make sure that you follow us on Instagram at iLookDownThere, or check out our website, lookdownthere.com. And if you have a story to share, go ahead and drop a line. I'm Michelle Amore, and I'm reminding you to grab a mirror and look down there.